What? Here we are, my friends. The live stream has begun. Man, it's good to be with you guys today. Let's do a quick shout out. Where are you guys connecting in from? I've got chat open. This is a good chance for me just to make sure things are working here. Give me a hey and where you guys are hailing in from. I'm here in Tampa, Florida, which is good. I think I'm on the last day of a sinus infection. So that's good. I'm feeling a lot better. Should be able to make it through the live stream today. So some Vegas and Jamaica, UK, Belgium, and I know it's Huntsville, Alabama, Sacramento. Nice. I'm sorry for folks that are either up at 3 a.m. Over on the other side of the world. I saw from several people that said, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to listen to the live stream and going back to bed. You can of course just come back to this as well. This is recorded, of course. Some folks from England, Holland, really good. So MainNet's here. At least it's mostly here, right? I mean, we know that there's two big phases, and if you don't really know a lot about it, you need to go back and watch some of my other videos. I've done several on MainNet. When MainNet was first announced, I did a video that kind of walked through the two phases. And then yesterday I put out a video and dove into a little bit more of my thoughts of what was happening inside of the new release that's going to be the updated white paper, and kind of giving you my thoughts. And I'm pretty excited about it. I think they're going in the right direction. And, I wanted to start this way since a ton of people are probably new to the channel and maybe you've been referred here. I didn't start out as a big fan of Pi. When a friend first introduced it to me, I'm like, this is a straight multi-level marketing scheme. I can't find anything about the founders. The white paper was a bit, less than professional, and I just had a lot of issues with it. But as I got into it and I began to explore it and really got to see what was happening, my mind changed a lot more on it. And I really liked where the direction they're going. And I've said this many times, but I want to mention this again on the live stream. Pi is doing something that's pretty unique in the crypto space. And I've been in crypto since 2012. I'm a cybersecurity guy by nature, and was doing research in cybersecurity and stumbled into crypto from all of that. And I've been a Bitcoin miner back in the early days and all this stuff, right? So I've been around this for a fairly long time. And one thing that Pi is doing that's very unique is they've built a community before they built the technology. The technology is coming up to pace with the community. And if you compare that to almost every other crypto that's out there, they build the tech first, and then they try to find the community to come and use it. And I'm not saying that one way is right and the other way is wrong. There's no right or wrong way with this. It's just that Pi started by building a community first. And so they're up to 30 million engaged pioneers is the number that they give us. That's incredible. And I think that Pi's go-to-market, and what I mean by go-to-market is how do you bring this out to users? Their go-to-market has been brilliant. One thing that Pi is solving for that a lot of cryptos have challenges with is how do we get mass adoption? And one thing that everyone in the world pretty much has, from developing countries up to any other country, is this. We all have phones. That's a unique thing that is kind of maybe a universal truth for most of us. And so being a mobile-based crypto where you're checking into it, and I know it's not the classic term mining, it's a brilliant approach. And so I think it's pretty interesting. And that's where the success of Pi has come from, but it's also where the detractors come from. And I understand their point of view, right? So a lot of people like this thing is a total scam. It's a fraud. And I get it because the Pi core team has not always been out in front. I understand that. They're a small team. They're busy building what they're building. And, the hype machine is not really who they are and their base nature, right? And that's okay. They're super smart people. Also, I think it's viral growth without having the technology there makes people say you're buying into a scam. And then, of course, all the stuff that people say around data mining and all of those sorts of things. So I get where the detractors come from. But here's the thing. I've learned this. Innovation always brings with it detractors, haters. Haters gonna hate. They go hand in hand. They do. And so it doesn't bother me. To me, it's actually a sign of success when you have people coming in and they don't buy into it. Like, if everyone's buying into this, that's usually a red flag in some form or fashion, right? It's how it is. You look at any company that's gone through these big hype cycles, and there's always a lot of detractors to it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be successful. Uh, Pi has a really long way to go to prove themselves, a really long way to go. So we'll see what happens in the next phase. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about market cap. Let me say this, though, as we get into market cap, I'm going to give you some frameworks to think about. I have not, and I will not do price speculation. I know it's the number one question everybody asks me. Wes, what do you think the price of Pi is going to be? I don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer to that question. Nobody, not even the core team, has any idea. I actually know the core team. I've talked to them many, many times on Zoom calls and things like that. I actually reached out to them last week as this was all coming out, and just to see, what their thoughts were. And they said the same thing. They said, we do not do price speculation ourselves. We don't endorse any price. And I think that's good. So today, I am not going to give you a price. Like, I think I can't stand when crypto YouTubers do that. I think, just my opinion, it's a bunch of hype machine, and you should never listen to crypto YouTubers, right? Especially not for financial advice. Don't do that. And so I'm going to give you some rules here that will let you fall into a base level of what we think the price could be that's reasonable. In other words, I'm going to give you a range that I think could be reasonable, but I have no idea what the price is going to be. None. And that range I'm going to give you is actually pretty broad. But I'm going to tell you, and we're going to show you why some of the price speculation, I'm much more akin to telling you where price speculation is wrong than me trying to be the one telling you what's right about it, if that makes sense. So you're going to get some data and detail on market cap that's going to educate you on what's fair for the price, but you'll also kind of understand where it might fall in as well. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. So let's jump in here. I'm going to share my screen out, and we're going to talk a little bit about market cap, and then I'm going to show you some examples of some things as well. So here we go, and make sure my camera is still on. I think so. So I think we're good here. So let's talk about market cap itself, right? So many of you are probably familiar with like market caps, right? Sort of like, how do we value something? It comes out of the stock and securities world. When we're trying to understand what's the value of a share that I'm buying, right? If I buy a share of Apple, what's the overall market capitalization of Apple? What are they worth? And here it's kind of simple. What's really nice about market cap is it's really this right here. At its essence, and there's more, I know there's more to it than this, but its essence, it's price times supply, right? It is what is the price of this particular thing and how much of it is there. We multiply those together and we get the market cap. Now you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. How do we determine the market cap for Pi? Well, we have to know those two answers. You have to have them both to get the market cap. We can't do it any other way. I wish we could. So what do we know so far in all of this? Well, keep in mind, in my last video yesterday that I put out, if you haven't watched it, you need to go and watch it. The Pi Core team talked about some things. One of the things they talked about is what the total supply is going to be. And the total supply that they have decided as the core team is 100 billion. That's a lot, right? There are certainly cryptos far higher. If you follow any of these burn tokens, Shiba Inu, SafeMoon, there's several that have been rug pulled, like that squid token. FEG, I'm a big fan of FEG, F-E-G. They're in the trillions, if not quadrillions. So there are some cryptos, especially tokens, that are like much higher than 100 billion. But 100 billion is the maximum supply. But see this right here? There's a big difference between circulating supply and fully diluted supply. Now, what does that mean? Let's unpack that for a minute, because it's important that we understand this as we jump into supply and market cap dynamics. Okay, so first, the when we say the words fully diluted supply, what we mean by that is the 100 billion. At some point in Pi's future, it will get to its fully diluted supply, where we've issued as much as we're going to issue, and that's it. Cryptos, most cryptos are that way. There are some like Doge and Ethereum that don't have maximum supplies. They've never been defined. They just continue to grow. But most cryptos have that fully diluted supply. So take, for example, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we're currently at about 18 million Bitcoin that have been issued, and there's a max supply of 21 million. So it's getting really close to its maximum supply. In fact, I made a video about that recently, about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. You can go check that out if you want to. So when we're thinking about market cap, remember that fully diluted is 100 million, but we're not there yet. The circulating supply is how much is currently available, right? That's the like how much we're at today. And if you guys watched yesterday's video, you would know we're at about, I think it's about 15 billion that we're at. The core team has said the full number is 30 billion that have currently been mined so far. But they said, we think if you take away the fraud that's out there, the duplicate accounts that's out there, it's somewhere between, they said 10 and 20 million, or 10 and 20 billion. Sorry. So let's just cut that in half. So let's say the supply is about 15 billion. That's the number that's currently in circulating supply. So we have a long way to go. We have a lot more that's going to get generated over time. And one of the things I said on the live stream yesterday, the video yesterday, was, I wish that they would kind of think about this a little bit, and I don't know. We need to wait and see what's going to happen. It's just the best way to say some of this, right? We need to wait and see what the dynamics of that will be and how quickly it will take to get to the 100 billion. But I will say this, I hope it takes a really long time. I hope it's not like within the next 2 to 3 years that we hit the 100 billion. I want to see this go beyond my lifetime. I want to see this supply as we continue to have drop-offs and the amount of Pi that's available when we have these halving events. I want to see it get to where there's still Pi being issued, but decades and decades for reach that 100 billion. That's what I want to see happen. Longevity. And it gives value to the current supply. If we're just dumping in tons and tons and tons of new supply all the time, that's called dilution. And dilution is good and bad. For holders, you would say it's bad because it makes it worth less since there's more of it, right? And so I think it'd be a good idea for the core team to slowly introduce this dilution. Right now, it's been fast, and that's okay. And in fact, Bitcoin was like that. I don't know if you guys remember in the early days, every block, every 15 minutes, 50 Bitcoin was released, and then it halved down to 25, and then it halved down to whatever the half of that is, and the half of that. So it's important to remember that as we go forward, the supply being issued out, the dilution should get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, so we've talked about all that. Let's go back to our screen here, and let's jump in a little bit more on market cap. So when we talk about cryptos, there's 3 categories that kind of exist, and I even like a 4th category. But the large cap cryptos are ones that have a market cap, a total value of anything higher than 10 billion. And there's a lot of those that are out there, right? I mean, you take Bitcoin itself, it's always around 2 trillion. So you have the king, Bitcoin, which is extremely high. You have Ethereum right under it, and several others that are coming down that are way higher than that 10 billion. But large cap cryptos are typically, a market cap higher than 10 billion, right? Then we have mid caps, and mid cap cryptos are a little different, right? So they're between 1 billion and 10 billion. And when I think about these cryptos as a whole, I think they're younger, they're newer, they're a little bit more stable in the sense of like then a lot of like a brand new token because they've been around long enough to have some amount of demand. to give its price and its supply a good valuation in that mid cap range, but they're still volatile and young. So they have a lot of room to grow, but they're not as risky as small caps, right? And a small cap crypto is less than a billion. And I even think in my mind, there's even like a super small cap that's less than 500 million. And those are extremely risky, but can grow significantly, right? And those are the ones that you see on like Wall Street bets and crypto moonshots, and you see people shilling for them all the time. If I showed you my Gmail channel where people reach out to me, it's almost eaten up by tons of like tokens that no one's ever heard of and no one ever will hear of. They're some of them are complete scams. Some of them are, they're just doing what they can, but they're, the chances of them being the next Shiba Inu are next to impossible. That's why they're risky. And so these are the categories. And so now you kind of understand, okay, so if market cap is how many supply and the price of each, and we multiply those, then we will get where the market cap for Pi will be. And then we'll know, is it a small cap, mid cap, large cap? Where does it all exist? So what I'm trying to do is kind of teach you through the dynamics here of Pi and kind of understand where this is going to end up. So let's go back to the calculation again, right? Price times supply. So we know it's the price. We know it's the supply. If we get both of these together, then we have the market cap. So here's the thing. We know the supply. The maximum supply, 100 billion, but total circulation right now is about 15 billion. And it will grow from 15 billion to 100 billion over some amount of time. What we don't know is this. We don't know the price. I wish I knew the price. I don't know it. No other YouTuber knows it. The core team does not know the price. Nobody that's out there knows the price. I wish that we knew the price, but guys, we simply don't have the answer to that yet. So that brings up the last thing that I wanted to talk about, not for the live stream, but just the last part on kind of teaching through market cap is, well, then how do we get to the price? What affects price? How do we know what the price of something is going to be? So I want to talk about that for just a little bit as well. And then we're going to kind of get some answers here, right? So first of all, one thing that can affect price, whether it's stocks, it's cryptos, it's securities, it's commodities, whatever, is shocks to supply, right? So things like this in the crypto world, what affects supply? Makes it bigger or makes it smaller? So that can affect the price. So things like burning, right? I'm going to give you an example of a big crypto burn that happened a few years ago, and you're going to see what happened to its price. So sometimes we can say we have a lot of extra crypto, we're going to burn some of it, and that reduces the volume, reduces the supply. So basic economics, if there's still demand, the value goes up. There are things that affect price that are negative, like hacks and outages, right? If you can't use, let's say the Pi ecosystem goes down for a week, and let's say it's up and running and people are using Pi to buy goods and services, that affects supply. The price goes down because it's not available, right? I'm just giving you basic examples. Or maybe changes to dilution. How much are we introducing? Maybe we're going to introduce a whole lot more. Maybe we're not. Here in the States, this is always being argued about. We call this Fed monetary policy. If you don't live here, your own country of origin has their own government group that controls your monetary policies, right? So how often do they print new money, and how does that affect things, the rates, all this kind of stuff, right? So I'm not trying to get too economical with you. I'm just trying to show you these are things that can move the price up or down for something. But the other one is also is shocks to demand. What changes demand? What makes something more in demand or less in demand? And these are pretty intuitive. So things like hype, right? Like Pi is good at that because Pi has referral awards, and you refer somebody, that makes you want to say, well, I want to refer as many people as I can. That's going to create new demand. It's going to create new hype. The more people that are using a system, the more demand there is. It's basic economics. Also, there are things that can reduce demand. So regulatory pressure in some cases can reduce demand, where maybe a certain government comes out and says, we are not going to allow XYZ. Maybe they come out and they say, we're going to allow it, but here's how we're going to do it. And sometimes that actually can increase demand when people see, oh, okay, so my government is okay with it as long as I do it this way and that way. And then innovation is huge, guys. Innovation is a big, big, big deal. Innovation is what drives new use cases. Innovation is what drives new users. Innovation is what drives new things to be done that causes the demand to go up, 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 up. And here's the good thing about Pi that I will say is Pi has a lot of room for innovation, right? We have no idea where the long-term direction of Pi is going to go. I think a lot of people are high on the hopium, which is good, right? Like, let's hope this thing blows up and does awesome. I'm in the camp of that. I want to see any crypto I'm in do well, right? For sure. But we don't know. And so, but I will say what stands in Pi's favor is having a big community and a lot of people developing marketplace apps. The core team has been really clear from the beginning that they want Pi to be a payment like mechanism, that anybody can use it to buy goods and services. They've been really, in fact, that's why it's even based off Stellar. If you don't know much about Stellar, which is the blockchain that Pi is based on, it's a very similar concept, meant to be high transaction rates and high usage. So there's a lot of room for innovation, which is awesome. Okay, almost done here. So remember, let's come back to this. Remember that Pi's circulating supply is about 15 million right now. So we have to keep that in mind. Is it's not 100 billion we're releasing right now. So if we're going to try to multiply a price times supply, you're gonna have to decide, am I going to do a totally diluted price of 100 billion, or am I going to try to do just the current supply itself? And the two, I mean, we're gonna have to think through that. And then this question here, as new Pi is diluted into the ecosystem, how can it maintain an increase in value over time? In other words, let me say that in a different way. In other words, as we introduce more and more and more Pi into the system, we put more in, how do we make sure its value continues to grow? Because didn't you just say, Wes, that the more Pi that we put in, it dilutes and the value goes down because we have more supply? Yes. What counteracts that? What offsets that? Well, this is what we're talking about. More users, more use cases, more innovation, more stability. Those are the things that really drive this to success, right? Okay, so let's change this just a little bit. And I want to kind of flip for just a minute and flip over to some examples that you can look at. One example actually has very little to do with crypto, but has everything to do with why Pi is doing great as far as its adoption and what it's touching on in a worldwide sense. And this is something a lot of my friends in the US don't understand. See, here in the US, we have kind of a jaded view of crypto because a lot of crypto is born out of the States, and a lot of people in the States got into it. Those that got into it early were able to get in at lower prices, all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people overseas, especially in developing countries, feel left out. And they don't have the ability to buy and build a mining rig. They might not have power and electricity stability to support it. And so this whole proof of work world kind of passed them by. And that's unfortunate. Same with proof of stake. The problem with proof of stake is they're like, well, I don't have the ability to buy crypto and stake it and earn from there. I can't do it in any way that I just don't have an entry point. So this is why Pi is hitting on something that there's a lot of worldwide demand. There's just not a lot of ability to get into the market. And I want to prove to you that there's a lot of demand because there's a ton of innovation that's happening all over the world that's not happening in the US. A few weeks ago, I did a video on some of the news around India banning cryptocurrency and what the parliament is thinking about doing. And I just mentioned in that video, I'm like, that would be such a sad thing. When you consider how much innovation is happening in India, as an example, India is a wildly diverse, very smart, very sharp country. It's doing a great job in innovating technology. They're becoming a world leader in all of this. And so to take out of all technology innovation, to take out all of crypto out of that and just say, you're not doing that, That'd be a horrible mistake. A horrible mistake for Indian Parliament to do that. So let me show this to you. This is an example from 2020, and I love it. This is such an awesome example. So this is from TechCrunch. Many of you may know, oops, didn't mean to click on that. Many of you know Stripe. Stripe is a payment mechanism processor basically here in the States. And they bought Paystack, which is a Nigerian startup, for $200 million. Isn't that awesome? That's the coolest thing ever. I'm so pumped for these guys. And I'm pumped for their country. And I'm pumped for what they've done to make Nigeria a better place. This is awesome. What does this teach us? This teaches that there's demand, that there's talent, that there's capability, not just in like payment systems, but the technology adoption as a whole, of which crypto belongs in. And so I'm showing you this article because this is just one example of many that you could look at to say developing countries are still flourishing. And there's demand for crypto. There's demand for payment mechanisms and ecosystems. And many of you that may be on the live stream today are in one of those countries, you're like, yes, yes. But here in the US, we don't always understand that. I just want to throw that out there, right? Okay, so let's take a peek at some cryptos and get an idea of how we can understand this. So I'm on CoinMarketCap right here, and I'm just going to refresh the page. And I'm going to show you something. So as we scroll down, by default, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a little filters button right here. And if you want to take a peek at some, I'm going to actually click on customize is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to remove it. Oh, I've already done this. Darn it. I was going to show this to you, make you realize how smart I am on the fly, but I've already got it selected. So by default, this will not be selected. I think just maybe total supply is selected, I think. But you can, what I'm doing is I'm going to show you cryptos, and we're going to sort this way off of circulating supply, total supply, max supply, and then we're going to look at its price, okay? And the reason we're going to do that is we want to have some idea of what are some similar cryptos to Pi. Well, how do we find those? Well, remember what I just said. Pi has a future 100 billion in supply. So this is kind of an interesting way to say, let's peer into the future with Pi, and let's look at similar projects that have 100 billion or somewhere between 50 billion to 200 billion max supply. And let's just use those as our range. Okay, hope that makes sense. So I'm gonna hit apply. And here we go. Let's see. Okay, so now we're gonna have to sort by this, right? So I'm not gonna worry about circulating supply right now. I'm gonna sort instead off of total supply. So one thing we can do right away is we can throw out some of these that have ridiculous numbers, right? So I mentioned Shiba Inu. This is an outlier in every way, right? It's an outlier because it is a meme coin, right? It is, at no point are they trying to have like value in any of this at all. It's grown because the hype machine has said it's awesome. It like, that's the truth to it, right? So we can throw this one out there, but it's got a bajillion supply, right? I'm not even going to count the number. It's big, right? eCash, I think we can throw out there. We're still at 999 billion. Okay, so now we get into Hollow. Hollow is 173 billion. That's still kind of high, so let's kind of pull this down a little bit. Okay, so Doge, we're getting closer, but keep in mind, Doge is not a good example either because Doge is going to continue to grow. There's no cap for Doge, right? But then we get into Tron. Look at Tron. This is basically exactly like, at least as far as supply numbers, exactly like Pi, 101 and 100 billion, right? So let's take a look at Tron. Let's kind of take a peek at this. So it's currently at 7 cents, right? Tron is, so its fully diluted market cap is 7 billion. How do we know this? We know it because we take the price times the total supply, and that gives us the market cap, right? So there's your answer. But again, Tron could go up in price. Tron could go down in price based on, like we said, shocks to supply, shocks to demand, innovation, all of these kinds of things. And we'll see, well, for some reason, we're not getting the market on this one. No big deal, okay? So that's one example that you might want to use. Okay, so let's look at some more, right? So here's XRP, right? This is another good example. So this one's currently, let's take a peek at XRP here. And here we are. So this one's at 84 cents. It is a, let's see, 84 billion diluted market cap with a circulating supply of almost 50 billion. With, look at this, total supply, max supply of 100 billion, right? So here's another example that we can use. Now, these are just examples, right? But they're reasonable examples to give you ranges. So what's Pi's price going to be? I have no idea. Am I saying, so let me give you some ranges of what I think are possible and not possible, right? Do I think it's going to be these ranges where you saw, if I go back to like Shiba Inu at like 0.0000001 cents? No, of course not. I think that's ridiculous to think that Pi's price, let's go back and rechange these, go back to circulating supply here. I think it's ridiculous to think Pi's price would be something so insanely low like this. Now, do we think that Pi is going to be in the price range of like hundreds and hundreds of dollars? I don't see data that supports it when we look at similar market cap cryptos, right? I don't. I wish I did, but I don't. I don't see it there. And so this is kind of what I wanted to get into is I don't know the answer. And I'm not trying to give you an answer. I'm just trying to give you some ways to find some ranges. I want to give you so use these market caps as a way to kind of say what are similar projects. But keep in mind, there's really no such thing as a perfectly similar project because Pi has some things that none of the ones that I just showed you do at all. Like even if you look at Stellar, right? Let's go pull up Stellar real quick. So Stellar is what we're based off of. It's what Pi is based off of, right? So Stellar is, if we'll get this to come up, 27 cents. It's varied wildly over time, as you can see, right? 50 billion max supply is what it is now because it used to be 100 billion. They've made some big changes, right? But Stellar has nowhere near the number of users Pi has. It has probably, when Pi comes out, nowhere near the number of applications and people using it. And so the big thing you need to keep in mind is where Pi has so much statistical advantage to be better than a lot of those other cryptos in the same similar supply, maximum supply categories, is the number of users and the use cases and the demand that will be there worldwide for it. And so that's why I can't give you a price. If I could see that Pi is still, 2 million users and it didn't grow much, then I think it's fair to say Pi is a lot like a Stellar. But Pi is different than all those others I showed you because it literally has so many millions of users with more coming in every day. And so it's hard for us to understand what that will do to impact the price. I mean, it just is. I wish we knew more. So one thing I do think, and I wanted to share this with you as well, and then I'll get some reactions from you guys and answer some questions, things like that too. One thing, I wonder if 100 billion is too high of a supply. I've talked to the core team about it. It's their decision. It's their prerogative. But Stellar had the same issue. But Stellar had the challenge that Pi doesn't have of not enough users, right? And this happened way back in 2019, but Stellar actually burned half of their supply. They did. And if you look at what happens in the article, they show Stellar's price way back here at 8 cents back when that happened. And then I showed you what Stellar is at today at 27 cents. It's not just coincidence that the price grew from the killing of so much. But I do think we need to be aware, the core team needs to be aware of what that 100 billion, what the impact of that is going to be. And maybe they decide over time, yeah, man, that's a lot. We're gonna burn a lot of it, or we're gonna change. They've said in the white paper they have the ability to change the total supply, so it may change at some point in time. Okay, so let me kind of recap what I just said. I gave you, you can do your own exploration, and I want you to do that. Let's all be polite and nice about it. If you're a Pi pumper and you think Pi is going to be hundreds of dollars, okay. I don't see that initially. But I also don't think Pi is a failure. It's not going to come in at 0.00000 whatever. So let's all be kind and polite with each other, and let's have fun with what we think it's going to do and where it's going to go. But let's not worry as much about all of that until we have more data. And I will say the thing that encourages me about Pi compared to anything else that's out there is the number of users. I mean, there's so many people worldwide that are all into Pi and growing all the time. And that's the one X factor that we can't neglect, that I think is really, really exciting. So I'm a big fan of it. And wherever it comes, we'll see what happens out of it. All right. So what questions you guys have for me? Could be about Pi, could be about something else. I actually have the chat open here. So anything you guys want to know about, if I can answer it, I will. If I can't answer it, no big deal. But it's definitely been a lot of fun talking with you guys and getting through this sinus infection for sure, and following the journey of Pi and see where it goes. And keep in mind, guys, we're at the very beginning of Pi, right? Like we're still at the earliest of days. It really, no one's done a real single mainnet transaction yet, outside of maybe the core team. So we're as early in as we can get. So there's room for growth. There's room for innovation. There's room for new things, and I'm very, very excited about that. So let's see. Any questions coming in here? Do you know how Sony marketing vet Christine Birch company? No, I don't. No, I don't know anything about that actually. Maybe it's somebody that's helping them with marketing. I don't know, but no idea. Paul, how about $10? Do you think it's reasonable? I mean, at some point, sure, it's reasonable. I don't know when, right? I'm not going to tell you what I think because I don't have a number in my mind of what I think Pi is going to be worth. I don't. What's my lockup period? That's a great question. And thank you for reminding me. That was the other thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing that's going to increase demand is lockup. So lockup I think this is a smart thing. I think it's a good thing. I would not be somebody that locks up 100%. And the reason is I want to use Pi. I can't wait to show you guys some videos where I'm using some Pi app and I'm using some of my Pi to buy and sell goods and services or whatever. I think that's exciting. So I'm not going to lock it up. So or all of it up. So I am personally going to lock up 50%. This is where I'm at right now. I might change. If I change, I'll tell you. But right now I'm going to lock up 50% for 1 year. I can probably relock it again after that year's up if the capability still exists. But that's what I'm going to do. That gives me some to use and play with and have fun with, and some to invest and grow. And I think that's good because I think a lot of people are going to do a lot of lockups. And I think that's awesome because the more we lock up and we store for future use case, you're going to grow out of that, and it reduces the supply. And that's going to, again, make the price continue to have use case, right? To really keep it going. So I'm a pretty big fan of the lockup. I think it was a smart development on their part for sure. Okay, what other questions do you guys have? Let me scroll through and see if I can find anything here. Do a review on Star Network. I think I've seen Star Network, but I don't know. Let's see. When is KYC starting? So I have not heard from the core team on when that's going to happen. But I think it's going to be in the next, probably my guess is the next couple of months. They're going to get it started. I know they're working on it right now. I've talked to the core team about KYC and how the whole process is going to work. If you haven't seen, I did a video. So I talked to one of the core team members, Swaroop, and he gave me some more information on how KYC is going to work that went a little bit beyond what they mentioned in the KYC update. Go watch my YouTube video on that. It's my most recent KYC Pi video, and it'll walk you through kind of how it all work and all that. But I think, January, February, we'll begin to see it be released. And keep in mind, when it comes live for everybody, you get 6 months of that rolling window, 6 months to get it done. So you don't want to miss that, right? You definitely don't want to miss that. Let's see. Thoughts on Philippines IOU of $10 USD and their physical establishments for Pi. So, man, I know I've seen that before, Philip. Obviously I don't live in the Philippines, so I haven't seen it in person. So I have no personal experience with any of it. But I don't understand the concept, right? Because the market is going to speak for what Pi is worth once it comes out live. And so, they can say it's $10 all they want, but if it comes down to a penny or $1,000 or whatever the number is going to be, the market's going to override that. There's not enough demand there to drive the price itself. So, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But hey, if it works for them and they're all happy with it, that's cool. Let's see. Bro Wolf, lockup uses a stellar tech called claimable balances. Thank you. I'm going to have to go take a peek at that. I appreciate that. I'll go take a look at what that is. Let's see. What else here? Still looking for questions here. Let's talk about nodes. Yeah, nodes are cool, right? I did spin up a node and play with it for a little bit. I had more busy things to do, but I would love to run a node at some point once the API is open back up and we can all run our own nodes. I think it'll be fun. I do like the fact that Pi is incentivizing you. So part of the reward rate in the future includes a calculation for running a node. I think that's awesome. So if you decide to run a node, you're going to get incentives for that. I think that's cool. You don't get any incentives for running a Bitcoin node, you know. So I think it's brilliant. I'm excited. Hi Wes, can you tell us approximately how much Pi will be worth? I'm sorry, a whole video I was stating that. I cannot tell you that. I don't know the answer to that. I have no clue what it's worth. I can tell you, like I said before, some of the numbers on both sides of the spectrum that are not reasonable, but there's a big middle window that we'll just have to see where it comes from, and it's going to come down to people like you and me, using it, buying it, wanting it, creating demand for it, all that good stuff, right? So yeah. Star Network, Wes, I want to buy all your Pi coins. Sorry, my friend, not for sale. I'm too excited about it. They are not for sale. Okay, this is a good one. Nervos for newbies. By the way, Nervos, awesome project. I've covered them several times. So how susceptible is Pi to hacks? So I'm a cybersecurity guy, right? This is my world. So there's two things you want to look at and think about here. One is it's based off Stellar Core. So we need to take a look at Stellar Core and understand what's happening in that ecosystem and make sure that Stellar Core itself is well written. But there's bugs in everything. There's risk and vulnerabilities in everything. At some point, Pi will come under attack, and how significant that attack is will remain to be seen. But we do know there are hacks that happen in crypto all the time. I covered one that was Polygon Network, not Polygon the crypto, but Polygon Network that was hacked. And that was a pretty adventurous story. The bad guy ended up giving the money back. Where I've seen most hacks happen in crypto is either the exchange itself or it's the DeFi protocol that's been written, the smart contract that has a vulnerability in the code. That's where the areas of risk are more than anything else. So, we certainly need to be worried about it, but, the Pi team hopefully is taking it seriously. And when something bad happens, hopefully they're ready to take action on it right away. Okay, let's see. Any other questions you guys have? Do you think that the tech can be similar to Ethereum, like big markets, NFTs, and more? So part of this, I think if we have marketplaces that drive some of this, maybe, and some cross-chain capabilities, maybe. Stellar was not built for things like NFTs and smart contracts, and some of that stuff I think is being added in, and it's becoming capable of all of that. But it's very base nature. It wasn't written for that, right? That doesn't mean that NFTs won't have a place in the Pi ecosystem. Pi maybe is the payment mechanism, and NFTs might be stored in another chain. Or there's a lot of ways you could do all of that. We'll see what happens with all that. But absolutely, I think that NFTs and DeFi and Pi and all these things will go hand in hand in their own ways. There's nothing wrong with integrating with other great crypto projects to make amazing things happen, right? We all get better when we all work together, right? Will the enclosed mainnet allow users to determine the price via buy and sell activities? So that's a good question, Michael. Answer is kind of, right? Because they have said it's permissible. You're not going to be able to buy and sell through an exchange, but you can buy and sell with each other. It's just going to be, think of it as a very decentralized one-on-one environment. Maybe you'll see people throw up websites where they're offering to buy and sell, almost like eBay. And we can almost create our own little mini exchange like that, saying, hey, I'm selling, 100 Pi. I want $1 for each. Maybe someone else comes in and says, 50 cents. Someone else comes in and says $2. Like, you may see an exchange that's all decentralized and run by one-to-one people selling. I don't know. We may see some of that. We'll have to see. That'd be fun if it did, because you better be sure I'm gonna share that. I'll do a video on it for sure if there's one that's heavily used. Let's see. Is Elon Musk investing in Pi Network? Unfortunately, Godwin, I don't know Elon. I wish I did, but no. At this point, of course not. Let's see. What do you think about the average Pi per person? Seems like between 700 and 1,000 Pi. So the way you can get to that answer is you take, there's 30 million users and there's about 15 million legitimate, or 15 billion legitimate Pi. So there's your calculation to figure out what the average is per person. And that should get you there. Thoughts on B crypto? I covered B a long time ago. It just wasn't for me. I hope they succeed. Again, I don't pick winners, but it's definitely not one that's for me. Same with Eagle. I looked at it, not for me, but I wish them nothing but success. I don't wish any crypto project to fail, right? That's not cool. Let's see. Any other questions you guys have for me here? I'm just scrolling through. Man, so many. I can't keep up anymore, guys. Let me go way back to the bottom here. Truth is correct. The core team will never suggest a price for Pi, right? They're not going to do that yet. I've talked to them about it. They don't engage in any of that.
Where we'll see the price get specified is when we get ready for it to go on an exchange. And at that point, I think we'll have a lot more information on it, and we'll see what happens there. All right, guys, I think I am about out of words for today. This has been a super, super fun live stream, kind of talking with you about market caps and how all this works. And I gave you some research for you to go tear into some cryptos that you like, that you might think are similar. Keep in mind, there's nothing else out there that's really like Pi. Because of some of its dynamics of the numbers of users, but I think it's really, really exciting. If you have not seen my channel before, right down below, right there it is. Don't forget to subscribe. That goes a really long way for me. It really does. So I'd love for you to do that. Share this with any friends. Hopefully you guys have learned some good stuff today. And overall, guys, it's been fun to talk. It's been fun to just meet up with you guys and live stream with you. I always want to do more of these when my time allows for it. But it's been a super, super amount of good fun with you guys today. So I think I'm going to call it quits here. You guys be nice to each other, be nice to the world, make the world a better place. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks.